On this episode of the Juice Box Heroes, we're going to talk about the early offseason news and some early rumors. So let's get this thing going. What's going on, everybody? I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. One more week closer to Thanksgiving, so I'm looking forward to that. But this is the Juice Box Heroes podcast. I'm one of your hosts, PK. As always, I have the Dubon Fan Club president, Chris Moreno, and sweet B-Bones Browse. Fellas, how are y'all doing?
Yeah, man, doing pretty good. Ready for this weekend to wrap up. We got a big playoff game on Saturday, so it's a do or die. So pretty excited about that. But yeah, man, I'm ready to get into this. Browse, how's your week going?
Good, man. It's been busy, but yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to this weekend. We got the playoff game with the boys in a Little League and huge football game this weekend between Texas and Georgia. So can't wait to see that. Fortunately, those schedules align, so I don't have to miss any of that game while we're playing Little League. It's other than that, man, it's been great. Just look forward to it. We'll look forward to getting into some of this off-season talk and going from there. PK, how about you, buddy? You feeling better?
Feeling better. Just glad this week's almost over, man. Get into the weekend, get some college football going. Like you said, man, big game Saturday night, huge game Saturday night. I think if they lose Saturday night, it's pretty much over for any chance of the college football playoff. But that's a topic for another podcast. So let's get into Smash Those early off season, some rumors, a lot of different stuff. I'm starting to see on X. We're gonna get into all of it. One of the topics has been, Cam Smith. Dana Brown made some comments about Cam Smith, which some of it to me is a little bit shocking based on kind of what he said. So we're gonna jump into that here in a little bit. There was also a little bit of talk earlier this week about a potential trade, or not potential trade, but that Christian Walker was on the trading block, right? Dana Brown's come out to say what he is expected to say, which is that's not true. Nobody really knows, right? So, guys, let's get into this thing. Where do y'all want to start, man? Where do y'all want to start? Oh, and HB. Let's start with HB real quick because it's a quick topic. HB finished third in the Cy Young voting. So big props to him. Congratulations. What a great season for him. Like the dude, we talked about it all season long. We can go back. Honestly, you can probably go back to last season in Detroit when he came out of the bullpen after being really crappy at the beginning of the season. And that I think it was like 5 innings of like scoreless ball in Detroit out of the pen. And ever since that moment, he has been dominant ever since then. Right. And so great on him, man. Congratulations to Hunter Brown. Third place in the Cy Young, AL Cy Young voting. Screwball goes, he ends up winning, right? I think that was kind of, foregone conclusion, but for Hunter Brown, hell yeah. And on top of that, the Astros get an additional draft pick for Hunter Brown, finishing in the top 3 in the Cy Young. So, guys, quick thoughts on that, and then we'll move into the podcast.
Yeah, I mean it was an uphill battle for him to take it. I mean, like you look at his record at 12-9. I mean, his ERA was fantastic. I mean, unfortunately, he was just a victim of the offense not putting it together when he pitched. I mean, so hey, congratulations, third place. You got the Astros another draft pick. So yeah, man. I mean, fantastic season by Hunter Brown. Browse, what you got?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm right there with you on all those. The one thing that I had to go look up, though, was why we got the compensatory pick, and it was part of the 2022 negotiations that we had with the Players Association. So anyway, after seeing that, I didn't even realize that the fact that he was up and that we brought him up a little bit earlier was going to get us that extra pick. So I don't know what it's going to turn into, but, with the way our farm system sits right now, these guys have done a fantastic job with what they've been given. But anytime you can get extra picks, especially after we went 2 seasons without a first and second rounder, that's going to help out. So, yeah, that was great news all the way around. So, anyway, good job, Hunter Brown. Can't wait to see you next year. Hopefully we can get him locked down on a contract here before it goes too much further and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, this could be his final season, right? 26 with us, like potentially.
Who?
Hunter
Who,
Brown,
Hunter
or has he
Brown?
got 2?
Hunter Brown.
No,
He's
he
got
I
two?
still
think he's
has,
got it.
no. He still got like 2 or 3 arbitration years left. He ain't going.
Yeah, he's got
anywhere.
some ARB years left. I think he's got
Okay.
2.
Yeah, because he first came up in 23, I think, 23, and then he had 24. Yeah, so he still got like another 3 years of arbitration. So he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
That's why I hang with y'all, man, because y'all have all the details. So let's get into this thing, man. Let's get into this, right? So we had some injury update from Dana Brown. Bryles, great job on some of these notes, by the way. So we're going to start with this. Dana Brown dropped some intel yesterday. Yordan Alvarez is jogging at 70%. He is on track for the spring. Hader has thrown off the mound 3 whole times so far.
Yes.
And he looks sharp in those 3 times that he has thrown the ball. So good news. Looks like he's going to be on track for spring training, which is really good news, to be honest with you, right? So we hope that he continues to trend up to 4 times pitching. So, let's go from 3 to 4. Let's see what happens with that. Pena and Altuve fully healthy. Let's see. And I think he talked about Paredes being at 65% healthy at the moment. At least that was recent. I think today he talked about that, or maybe yesterday. So he should enter spring training. I'm assuming they were probably going to say like 85% is what I would assume, with the hopes of him being ready for opening day. So, man, there's so many different things to talk about, right? Let's start with that. Let's start with the injury. Like, what's your first thoughts on the injury news? How are we feeling about, Yordan, Hader, and Paredes recovering from, their injuries?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that I care about is I don't care how many times Hader's thrown off the mound. I don't care what percentage Jordan is running at. All I care about is will they be ready for spring training? I mean, and it sounds like the majority of them will. I'm hoping that they take it a little bit easier with Paredes, even because they're projecting him. You said 85% by spring training. So hopefully he can ease his way in. Maybe even if he's still not quite at 100. Or maybe, like I said, I just don't want to rush. I'm tired of rushing people back. So, I mean, we'll get into, this is going to lead into, and I don't want to get too much ahead of myself, but you have a plethora of depth in the infield. There should be no reason why you're rushing Paredes back. So I hand it over to Bryles.
Waffle, did you say a plethora? Yes, you did. We do have a plethora of infield depth. Yeah, you know what? I think the thing I'm the most excited about is that we actually have news coming out, and it's in the middle of November. I still remember the days where guys weren't even picking up a baseball from the end of the World Series all the way pretty much through New Year's. And the only news, even if you got anything out of it, was going to be like the winter GM meetings and stuff like that. That was about it. So the fact that, we're getting news on some of these guys that finished the season on the injured list, it's nice to see that, we've, 1, got updates, and 2, they're actually progressing along. The only thing that really stuck out to me in that entire list was the one on Issac Paredes. They were saying he was at 65%. Well, if he's at 65%, if I remember correctly, they were even saying that, if we made the playoffs, he was going to be available. So I don't understand how he could have been available for the playoffs because of all the rehab he did after that quad injury. And then now he's only at 65%. So that, in my opinion, seems a little fishy. It obviously is not the first time that the Astros would be ambiguous with what they're saying about injuries and, oh, well, yeah, he's doing okay and this and that. And, we never really kind of get a straight answer. I do feel like with Dana Brown, we get a little bit more of a straight answer than we have in the past. But at the same time, we're not going to get anything that's going to be of substance as far as information is concerned. So, but anyway, all those are great. And Chris, I totally agree with you. As long as these guys are ready for spring training, that's really all that we should care about. So if these guys are ready to rock going in spring training, they didn't take that entire off season off just to, go hang out, go on vacation, go to the buffet the entire time, and they're all working, then I will take that all day long. I do want to keep an eye on, I know the Arizona Fall League is just about to finish up, and then we're going to get into the Caribbean League coming soon and the Mexican leagues for the offseason. So it'll be interesting to see who participates in those and if any of these guys that have been injured or need a little bit of work show up. So anyway, we'll see what happens. And come spring, hopefully we get all those guys back.
Yeah, so that was that was my first thought when they gave the percentage for Paredes was if he's just now 65% on November the what are we 13 something like that, then what the hell was he at the end of the season when he came back?
And why was he playing?
And why was he playing? Right. And this is a perfect segue into the fact, and I don't have it in front of me, but I've seen it on X where like Dana Brown shockingly admits that they rushed their players back, right? Like all throughout the season. They had 60 guys, I think 60 different players that I think played like due to injuries, and they're having a deep dive into their process as far as when they decide to bring these players back. And so it's like, well, then if he came back in the last, he played the last 2 weeks, maybe the season, something like that. Right.
Yeah.
So that would have, I mean, that's what, over a month and a half ago. So 45% the guy was maybe 40, maybe. Right. And so
who knows?
Like, why come back? I get it. Like, he wants to play, he wants to help the team, but at the same time, you're risking, now granted, nothing, thank God nothing happened to him, right? In that time that he came back to try to help us get to the postseason. But the risk is way, how am I going to say it? It's not worth the reward, right? I mean, he could have potentially damaged that thing so much more to where he misses a huge chunk of 26, right? So thankfully nothing happened. I agree with you, Bryles. Like they've given us percentages and where these guys are at before, right? It's up to you to kind of decide if, how much you want to trust what the front office is really telling you. There is part of me that feels like with the new medical staff and with how many injuries and how it went down last season, I almost feel like they're going to be a little bit more transparent going forward, right? Because they've admitted like, hey, we rushed these guys back. Like I don't know who, who's running that clown show of a medical team that we had. But it's completely it's an embarrassment to have all the injuries that you had because you rushed these guys back. So good news to hear on Paredes getting healthy. Jordan, we talked about it before. With Jordan missing 3 months of the season, right? Half the season, you still missed the playoffs by one damn game, right? Even with all the injuries, we talk about it all the time. You give me a full squad, let's go do some damage, right? And that's what we're hoping for, come 2026. So, y'all want to get into Fromber or you want to get into Cam? I'm ready to talk about Cam, but if y'all want to get into some Fromber, we can. There's not much.
Let's do Cam.
Yeah, let's do Cam. Let's go.
All right. So here's what we have. Here's what I have, right? So Dana Brown, prospect Cam Smith, Dana Brown says that he must show more consistency in playing to secure a 2026 roster or spot. Like when he goes into spring, he's not guaranteed that right field position. So the first thing that came to mind was why in the hell did he stay up here all season then? Now, the flip side of that, what I thought was, well, who the hell else were you going to put out there that was worth a damn, right? Like, so it's a lose-lose, right? The kid played the most games in one season that he's ever played, right? I mean, he went straight from college, straight to the bigs. We all know he needs to be more consistent. We all know that, right? Because he was very up and down. But his defensive skills and a position that he has never played, far exceeded what anybody thought he was going to do out there. So I've seen a lot of responses on X where they're saying, hey, like this guy should spend more, or Cam should spend more time down in AAA, right? Maybe half the season before he comes back up. But at the same time, who are you going to put out there in right field to play? So I'm kind of curious to see what y'all's thoughts on Dana Brown's quote. I think I have it real quick. Give me 1 second while y'all think about your answer. Here we go. So Dana Brown says the Astros have to firm up their outfield. Part of that calculation is Cam Smith the everyday right fielder? Brown made it clear today that Smith doesn't have a guaranteed roster spot heading into spring. That is from Chandler Rome. So, thoughts?
All right. Well, if it's straight off of just inconsistency offensively, then you've got about 6 other guys in this lineup that right now you that can apply to right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean he kind of struggled, got up, then he was hitting like 290, kind of fell off. I mean, at the time we were all excited when he made the team out of camp. We were all super stoked. Now that you're playing Monday morning quarterback, I mean, I guess you could say, would it have been more beneficial for him to probably spend some time down in Sugar Land for a handful of months, first couple of months, then come up? Maybe. I mean, but I feel like the city of Houston, as far as Astros fans, wanted him to come up and just be that Tucker replacement right off the bat. And again, I mean, I'm not saying that the fans, they wanted him to, hit 40 home runs and have like almost a 9 WAR that Kyle Tucker had for the Cubs this season. But I think it was one of those things. He was raking in spring training, and it was just like we felt like right off the bat that this was a guy that was going to, for the first season, maybe not perform as high as Kyle Tucker did offensively, but enough where we're like, okay, I don't want to say Kyle Tucker who, but it's just like I'm good with it. I'm good with the trade. Yeah, I mean, or it could just be, maybe Dana Brown lighting a fire under Cam Smith to motivate him to get better for this upcoming season. I mean, unless you go out there and you trade for an outfielder or you sign an outfielder, who are you going to put in right field? You're going to put Zach Cole. Hopefully, that little 30, 40 at bats he had at the end of last season. Maybe he can build upon that, or maybe that was his Jeremy Lin. Maybe that was his Lin sanity. Who knows? You don't know. I mean, so
Lin sanity. Good throwback.
I mean, so like, who else? Unless you're going out there and making deals. I mean, and I'll hand it over to Brown so we don't, take too much time on this.
Well, you mentioned it, and I think that was one of the first things I thought of. Is like, is he trying to motivate him in a kind of negative way?
Yeah.
Because first of all, I wouldn't do that to a guy that was a rookie last season, and not only that, one of the youngest rookies in the entire league. What are you doing? And how are you also going to say that when? Correct me if I'm wrong here. He was a finalist for the Gold Glove in right field. Am I wrong? I mean,
yeah, no,
you're right.
So what are you doing, Dana Brown? First of all, take a look at the team that you have and the one that you have selected, and then take a look in the mirror. And if you're worried about the outfield, it's your fault. It's not Cam Smith's fault. Leave the kid alone. He's going to make the roster. Now, is he going to start every day? We don't know. But, you're right. He shot out like a cannon in spring training. Almost said spring break. In spring training,
he probably did
this last season. Yeah, he probably participated in spring break too. But anyway, long story short, yeah, he looked great. He started out great. He had a little bit of a slump there at the beginning and then was just on fire. And I think what happened was Major League pitching kind of figured him out. So that's why he went into that slump in the kind of end of the season, is they were like, oh, they found a hole in his swing. So if he adjusts in the offseason and can just be a Major League Baseball average hitter or slightly above, because that's kind of what we expect, right? Then with his defense, then yeah, he's going to secure the right field job. So saying that he's playing for a roster spot, are you kidding me? You think that he's going to not be one of the 27 guys that's on that roster every day in and day out? Dana Brown, you were nuts for saying that. That is what I'm going to say. So that's as far as I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, I think, because I also thought about that too. If this was some kind of like weird motivation tactic to say like, hey kid, like, I don't know, work harder in the off season. Like, I don't know. I don't know why that would be the route that I would, that you would take as the general manager to come out and kind of blast your guy, essentially for being inconsistent. I mean, even if it's the truth or not, right? But I think he went out there, like you said, a finalist for the Gold Glove. You had nobody else to put out there. and there were times throughout the season that he did come up with some clutch hits and some, like really opportune times, right? I think he's probably our best option at the moment as we sit here tonight and do this episode.
Damn
Like
straight.
he's the starting right fielder, unless you make a move. I did see something also, speaking of the outfield, I did see something this evening before we went on about the trade market for Jake the Rake, that there are potential suitors out there that might want his services. So my thought to that is, from a strictly moving a Jake Myers position, his value will probably not get any higher than it currently is coming off the season that he's coming off of, right? And so if you're going to make the move and move him out, this would be the time to do it, because you're going to get the most. You're going to get the most from him, because you can't expect him to replicate what he was doing prior to the calf injury. I mean, it would be amazing, but I don't think you can like truthfully expect that to happen. So, quick thoughts on the potential if Myers is moved. Do y'all agree that this is his highest value that he's going to have? Should you make the move if you get, whatever the hell offer you get that's, worth it for the team move?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think this is going to be the highest his value is. However, I also feel like it's a catch-22, because again, just like what we talked about Cam Smith, if you trade Jake Myers, and let's say you get a couple of minor league pieces for him, who's going to play center field? I mean, so we now you got Dana Brown talking about Cam Smith having to fight and claw and all this other stuff to be the right fielder. Right now, you're going into 2026 with, if that's the case, and they do end up trading Myers, your outfield, you just put question mark, maybe Zach Cole, and that's your outfield. I mean, we came into 2025 wondering what the outfield was going to be. If we make that trade, and I'm not saying that you don't make that trade. I mean, I'm just saying is that you come in, if you make that Jake Myers trade, then you come into 2026, before you make any moves, with an even bigger question mark about your outfield. And to me, like I said, that's the catch-22, because like, how does your team become better trading Jake Myers? Now your only outfielders that played on the big league team last year is going to be Zach Cole and Cam Smith. So, I mean, that's a massive gamble. That's a massive, massive gamble to take. And like I said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Brawls.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to thoroughly rely on one of two things: either your AAA outfield, which we ran through that entire experiment in the 2025 season, or you better start signing some people, free agents or trades or whatever you can possibly do, because you're 100% right. That's three question marks out there, especially with the way that you just treated Cam Smith in the media. So it's like, what are you going to do? Yes, I agree with you. I think that Jake Myers, his stock right now is probably as high as it's going to get. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the guy can't go out there and replicate what he did, but it would be difficult, because before he got injured, he was hitting like 335 or something crazy like that. And he was also hitting with power. He was hitting gaps. He was hitting the power alleys. He was hitting anywhere that he possibly could. And with his speed, turning a lot of that into extra base hits. So do I expect him to replicate that, whether he's with the Astros or another organization? Probably not. But, can he still be that 280 batting average plus with some explosiveness that's going to get you that extra base hit, steal a couple bases, and maybe play a little small ball for you? I think that's definitely what he can do. So we'll see what happens with that. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So it depends on what you're going to get back for him. Are you looking for pitching? You damn well better be. Are you going to get another outfielder out of it? Or like Chris said, are you going to just get 2 or 3 prospects? So it just kind of depends on what you get for Jake Myers, if they do really have him on the block, or is this just some of that off-season blowing smoke just to kind of see what kind of traction you can get? That's kind of where I am with that.
Yeah, and it's so early in the offseason to know. I mean, there's so much crap on X. I mean, y'all know, you can go on there and you can read, any post from any Joe Schmo and be like, oh, damn, that's happening. Oh, okay. kind of like what we led off with. Walker was on the damn. It was posted. That Walker was potentially on the trading block, right? Dana Brown comes out and says no, he's not. I don't think, I don't think the infield move is going to be a move that he makes from a trade perspective. Let me read something to you, and I want you to just your first thoughts. This is from Jeremy Branham. Okay, so this is based on Dana Brown's quotes yesterday. Jeremy Branham thinks that he wants to enter the season with this as his foundation. So at catcher, you have Yiner. First base, Walker. Issac will get some starts there. Second base, Altuve with Dubon and Urias playing a lot also. Third base, Correa. Then Issac also getting starts. Shortstop, Pena. Left field, Jordan with Altuve getting a decent amount of starts out there. Myers in center with Cole and Melton. Could take some at-bats depending – or could take some at-bats versus right-hand pitching. Right field is Cam Smith. Dana trying to motivate. You have Sanchez, Cole, and Melton could also could cut into some of his starts versus right-handed pitching. And then DH, Issac, Jordan, and Altuve at a decent amount. So it sounds like Isac's going to be really first base, mostly DH, I guess, right? I mean, you're still putting Altuve out and left every now and again, because we all know, like, we don't want Jordan, or I don't want Jordan out there, unless he's playing, I guess, at almost called it Minute Maid, at Daikin. Because we've seen what happens, when he starts lumbering around. I mean, he's got a cannon, he can play some good defense, but we need to save those legs. So I think the offseason has to be focused on the outfield, right? I mean, I honestly keep forgetting about Jesus Sanchez until I read that right there, right? Like, what do you do with that guy? Like, what are you doing with him?
I mean, like, I totally forgot about him too. I mean, like, I feel like you treating Issac Paredes, and maybe it's because they're expecting him to come into the season at 85, 90%. I mean, but you using him as like your third utility guy. You already have two utility guys on this team. You've got Dubon and you've got Urias. I mean, like, which it just makes no sense. I mean, like, I was surprised that Jesus Sanchez survived the not getting DFA'd, which that's probably because you DFA Jesus Sanchez, then you're really left with like the bare bones in the outfield.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like you're so deep at infield. The fact that you're not potentially thinking about moving, Issac Paredes, and I know that's like kind of crazy to think about, or Christian Walker, and you're going to utilize three. And the idea of putting can we stop with the idea of putting Altuve in left field? Have we not seen how that's? Can we just stop?
Yeah,
just stop. Yeah. I mean, like, it's not like we'll have Altuve in left some games and Altuve was like came up as a left fielder. No, I mean, like, it's just like it makes no sense. I mean, you have a depth. You're so deep at the infield spot. I mean, hell, you pretty much blocked Bryce Matthews from coming up. So now Bryce Matthews basically turns into a trade chip, right? Because he has no shot of making this infield. So I just don't understand why not use, take from an area of strength to, strengthen an area that you're weak at. So I see a lot of guys that are little that are young bucks. You talked about Melton, you talked about Zach Cole, you talked about Cam Smith. All of them have a combined of like a season and some change put together as far as MLB experience. Then you have Jesus Sanchez that came in and hit under 200 for you. And then you have Jake Myers. I mean, so that's a little troublesome. I mean,
well, Dezenzo's
not
coming
the most
back
stacked
too.
lineup I've seen.
Yeah,
well, I mean, you don't even know what you're going to get out of Dezenzo either.
Don't even know.
So
I have no idea.
I'm just saying, like, you have a handful of these like mid-tier, prospects. You have all these log jams, man. Trade them, get some MLB pieces in here, get us a real outfield. I mean, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'll hand it over to Brawls.
Yeah, I like Jeremy Branham in with a lot of the stuff that he does and reports on. The one thing I will say, I don't always agree with him though. And with what the point that I took away from that entire little spot there was that we don't know who's going where because he had
right.
so it's like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? So you got a bunch of guys playing infield. Chris, totally agree. I've been preaching this the whole time. Leave Altuve at second base. He can play DH every now and again. Stop putting him in left field. And then we've got a bunch of dudes in the outfield that may or may not play, may or may not make the team. We don't know what's going on. So, and also to the point of when Dana Brown was saying, like, hey, we're not trading Christian Walker. I also saw a spot today from a sports writer in Arizona saying that they would love to have him back to play first base, and Ketel Marte was on the market. Chris and I were even talking about that. It's like, dude, he could even go play in the outfield.
One for one.
Yeah.
Make that trade. 1 for 1. There you go.
Yeah.
You can have Christian Walker back.
There you go.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, when we had that conversation. No, go ahead. I was going to say, when we had this conversation, Ketel Marte used to play center field. So.
Yeah, and I had completely forgotten about that. So if you trade Jake Myers from what you were talking about, use that as a chip, and then we get Ketel Marte to go play center field from Arizona, and then ship Christian Walker back to him. We could put Issac back at first, or put him at first, because he can play first base. It's incredibly easy, right?
No,
and then
I just watched that movie tonight, by the way.
Tell him, Wash. Anyway, so we've got then that kind of gives us a little bit of an idea of how our infield solidifies. It also solidifies the outfield, but it still also leaves question marks. And I think the biggest thing that we've got to take away from all of this, including what Jeremy Branham said, was at this point, we have no idea where any of this is going to go. We've just only got speculations and a bunch of dudes playing a bunch of different positions. And the other thing I will tell you, yes, PK, I did forget about Jesus Sanchez as well. And I expect to see some of those utility guys playing in the outfield.
Yeah, look, it's November the 13th, right? We have like a good minute. Then there's going to be so much more coming out, so much other smoke to go and dig through and see. It's going to be fun, man. But we'll keep having these conversations. We'll keep throwing out these potential trades that we see. I like the Ketel Marte thing. Like, that would be pretty phenomenal. Like, to be honest with you, Marte and center, Issac at first. I guess Sanchez could be in left with everybody else that wants to play outfield for the Astros, right? They can just platoon. So, I would take it.
5-day rotation.
5-day rotation. Everybody gets a day off. Everybody gets 4 days off.
There you go.
Right?
5-man left field rotation.
That's right. But hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode, man. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, as always. We really appreciate the support that we get, on Facebook, on X. And thank everyone for tuning in. This is the Juice Box Heroes podcast. We're going to be back on Sunday. I believe we've got a special guest on Sunday.
What?
Looking forward to that. It's been a minute since we had somebody on, so we'll let y'all know when we post the time and who it is. So make sure you guys tune in on Sunday. We'll all be back. Until then, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. It's Friday tomorrow, y'all. Saturday's big college football. Hook 'em horns. Go to Athens and take care of business. But until then, I'm PK. That's Chris. That's Bryles. And this is the Juice Box Heroes.
And congratulations to Cameron Maben's son, who signed with the University of Texas Longhorn baseball team.
Didn't Maben get